This is episode number 20 with Pete Evans. Welcome to the Melissa Ambrosini Show. I'm your host, Melissa, best-selling author of Mastering Your Mean Girl, and I'm here to remind you that love is sexy, healthy is liberating, and wealthy isn't a dirty word. Each week, I'll be getting up close and personal with thought leaders from around the globe to uncover the habits, mindsets, tools, and rituals that they have used to become world-class so that you can create epic change in your own life and become the best version of yourself possible. Are you ready, beautiful? Pete is an internationally renowned and household chef, restaurateur, author, and television presenter. His passion for food and a healthy lifestyle inspires individuals and families all around the world. Pete and I first connected at our beloved Jess's book tour many years ago. I remember our first conversation actually. We were sitting side stage about to go on chatting about Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, and our spiritual journey and some of the best books that had supported us on our journey. I remember him showing me the Kindle app on his phone, chock full of some of the best spiritual texts out there. And it looked almost identical to mine, so we bonded over that and we had some great chats and have stayed in touch. And his beautiful wife, Nick, is a dear soul sister of mine, so I'm very excited for you to hear this episode. In today's episode, we chat about why we shouldn't get hung up on labels, the truth with a capital T that everything comes down to, and that is love and fear. He's totally talking my language here. The sacred ceremony he does with his wife for 30 minutes as the sun rises. Why curiosity is the key to life. Why self-love is essential to happiness. The book that awakened him and set him on his journey at 19 years old. His self-love tips and tricks. How to be fearless, how to parent consciously, how he moves through fear when it comes up, the importance of surrounding yourself with epic humans, why he was always hungry for growth, plus so much more. Everything that we mention in today's episode can be found in the show notes, and that is at melissaambrosini.com/20. So without further ado, let's dive in to today's episode with the one and only Pete Evans. Welcome, Pete. It's so good to have you here. Before we dive in, though, can you please tell us what you had for breakfast this morning?
G'day, Melissa. Breakfast this morning. What did we have? Actually, we had something different today. Nick made this amazing little low-carb pancake, actually. It was the first time I've had pancakes at home as a family in, I think, about like 5 years, and with a little bit of free-range bacon, and we've got some honey from the bees, and we actually drizzled that over the top. And usually it's a savoury breakfast, but for today, for some reason, it was a little sweet number, and it was great.
Sounds absolutely delicious. Now, I've had your cooking and I've had Nick's cooking, and it is just amazing. So I'll be there soon for those pancakes. So you are the host of #1 TV show in Australia, My Kitchen Rules. You're a prolific entrepreneur, a best-selling author of 15 books, and you've sold over 750,000 copies. You're the creator of the Paleo Way TV series and the 10-week online program. You're the face of raw coconut water. You have your own skincare. You're a producer, a documentary.
That'll do.
Oh my God. Seriously, I was like, is there anything he doesn't do? And there's so many brands that you're involved in. And not to mention, you're an amazing, devoted husband and an incredibly active and loving father. So take us back to young Pete, 15-year-old Pete. Did you know you were going to do all of this? Could you have imagined creating what you've created?
Well, a 15-year-old Pete is pretty much the same as nearly 44, so mid-40s Pete, to be honest with you. I grew up in Queensland, and basically that's where I am now, near the Gold Coast, and I just took my oldest daughter for a surf today. Her name's Chili, and she's 12 years old. And we had a 2-hour surf at Kira. And it was exactly what I was doing about 30 years ago myself, surfing the same spots. And to be honest, I'm no different, except with a little bit more experience as far as life goes, or life skills goes, between now and back then. But I still feel like that same kid. I honestly do. And thanks for all the introduction, but I think the thing that I love the most is being a father to 2 beautiful daughters, and being a husband to my wonderful wife Nick. And if you can do that and be happy and healthy, and then do the job that you love to do, or create the jobs that you love to do, then I reckon that's pretty good. That's a pretty good way to live.
Yeah, when I look at you, I don't see a paleo chef. When I think about you, I think of a fearless ambassador for truth. Was this one of your life goals?
The thing that you mentioned there is you said you don't see me as a paleo chef, and I think people get hung up on labels. They really do, and it's something that I try to, I guess, bring a different view, or a different point of view into that conversation with people, because so many people introduce themselves as, I'm a vegetarian, or I'm a vegan, or I'm a yogi, or I'm this, or I'm that, and I'm like, well, really at the heart of it, if we're human beings, and we should live as human beings should live, and that should be the defining, if we have a label as such, and everything should spread from that innate self of knowing who we are as a species, and then grow from that and understand who we are, understand how we've managed to get here. And that's the only sort of label I think people should really go out and say, you know what, I'm a bloody good human, and let's spread that message, because I mean, if we think about the word human, and then it goes into the humanity, all of these things just should be resonating deeply within us. But a fearless truth speaker, we can talk about that if you like, but again, I'm probably not so comfortable with those sort of titles, or a paleo person or anything like that, because I'm not.
Let's just talk about being fearless. Have you always been fearless, or is this something that you've kind of developed through adversity or dealing with critics?
I don't believe that anyone lives without fear. I think fear and love is what really drives us. Fear and love is what will dictate the choices that we make, or the decisions we make, or the goals that we set for ourselves. It all comes down to those 2 words, and emotions, and it is fear and love. And a very dear friend of mine, if you're interested in, you might want to look at getting him on your show as well. His name is Rudolf Eckhart, or Rudy Eckhart. He's a wonderful a therapist out of Sydney. And he's actually written a book called The Truth of Love and Fear. And I think it's a wonderful thing to talk about, or to bring up into a conversation, because we all do have an element of fear to a degree that shapes who we are. Because the old question is, what would you do if you had no fear? Who would you become? And I'm going to go off a little tangent here on that fear thing, because I think it's probably one of the most powerful things people are scared of, is their own true potential. And I honestly see it daily, if not weekly, or with people that they live in a state of fear of what they can be, or who they can be. And I think it's a really powerful and quite a negative thing to live in that state. And I think if you could channel that that focus, I guess, into how can you love yourself more and more and more to bring that fear level down or make it nearly non-existent. I think that's where we need to go, because fear comes in so many different, I guess, disguises, but I think most people have developed their own fears through how they've been brought up and the experiences that they've had. And generally it has come through their mum and dad, either telling them that they can't do this or they're not good enough for that. Or, a great example of mine is, my father used to say to me, children should be seen and not heard. And I think that is probably one of the cruelest things that a parent could ever say to a child. What they're saying is that your voice or you do not matter. You're a bit of garnish for people. And so words really can hold so much power, especially in those formative years, especially when you're looking up to people for their unconditional love, but they're putting conditions already on themselves as being parents. And if you look into it a little bit deeper, it's probably how your parents were brought up and their parents were brought up, and it's this ongoing cycle. So if we can break the cycle of limiting self-beliefs, or what you might call fear, I think that's a really good thing to investigate. And I guess a little bit of my own story is that I have been searching out therapists or teachers or mentors that is their modality, or what they love to teach people is removing negative fear-based patterns or belief systems that we have had since early days, or have developed through different experiences. It could be your first day at school, or it could be your first day on a new job, or starting out a new business. It could be whatever it may be. So for the last 25 years, I have been searching out around the globe people to help me understand myself better, and to peel off layer by layer. And a good analogy is that we're like an onion. Once you peel off one layer, there's another layer to investigate. And I don't ever think anyone will ever get to their core, because I believe that we're all here on a spiritual journey or an evolutionary journey to get closer and closer to that core state of unconditional love for others and for themselves.
And through your exploration with working with different teachers and reading books and just going on your own journey, how do you today, when that fear arises within you, how do you move through it? Like, do you have something like a little process that you personally take yourself through, or do you simply remind yourself that this is just a limiting belief from the past? What do you do now?
It's an interesting question, because I think it is multifaceted. I don't think there's one simple answer that I can give you. But for instance, this morning, my wonderful wife Nick and I were having a cup of tea. We have a little tea ceremony most mornings now as the sun gets up. It's a beautiful connection for both of us. We do it in silence. We have three cups of tea with it. She is basically she holds space for both of us, and our pet dog, Shakova, curls up in my lap, and we sit across from each other as the sun comes up, and we're basically silent for 30 minutes. And we have basically a very powerful meditation through that process. And after that, I actually had the conversation with her that I've got a few little things niggling at me at the moment to do with work and business. And she just said, just let it go, and the right thing will come. And it was funny because straight after that, we had the breakfast, I took my daughter for a surf, and on the drive out it was a half an hour drive to the surf, and on the way out there, one of the things that was niggling with me, I'd actually made a decision on. rang up a friend and said, listen, this is where I want to take this part of the business. And I've been going back and forth with it for the last 6 months, and finally today it was time to make a decision. And I feel great about it now that I have made that decision. So the process for me today was sitting in silence and having space, holding space, or my wife was holding space for me, and knowing that the right outcome would come. Now, I'm not going to promise that my decision today was the right one because we never have a crystal ball as such, but it felt right now in my gut. So for me, for today, it was the right decision, and I'm going to head on that path. And this path is going to go into many different areas. I can already feel it. So I guess one of the things we have to learn to do is trust our gut or our intuition. Now, that only happens through, I guess, strengthening that and listening to that. Now, if we want to get into the nutritional side of that, it is very important that I believe and others believe that we try to follow a basic gut healthy diet because that helps us to get into tune with our feelings and where we can potentially go with the decisions that we have to make. And that might be a little bit esoterical for people, or a little bit woo-woo, but I firmly believe it. But again, I've been struggling with a couple of these decisions lately, and I've also got a bloody good diet. So there's more to it than just diet. There's more to it than just following your intuition. That's why I said it's multifaceted. If I could have, I would have gone and seen one of my mentors or therapists to talk about these things. But at the moment, I haven't felt the need to lately, and I'm in a different location. So we're just letting the process unfold. I'm very cautious not to give anybody any advice as such and say you should follow what I do or you should follow what this person does. I think for each person out there, it's very important that they find what works for them. As I've said to many people on my journey, if you have an addiction that might be alcohol or drugs or sex or gambling or anything in life that mightn't be serving your higher power or higher good, then if you keep searching for the answer for that, then it will come. And it might be a combination of different people or different coincidences or different things that manifest themselves. But I think once you stop looking or close yourself off from the possibility of it, I think that's where it can turn stale for people. So I think being curious is probably the only piece of advice I would give people is be curious about who you are, what you're capable of, and the different types of avenues or answers that are out there for you. Be bloody curious. Hunger for curiosity.
I couldn't agree more. And trust, you said it a couple of times and it keeps resonating, just trusting and listening to your intuition and trusting that your intuition knows the way and letting it guide you. So everything you're saying is just resonating so much with me. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Often being fearless can be mistaken for being rude. Now, you make no apologies for your truth and you have spoken out openly about your beliefs. What makes you want to do that? Is it a strong desire for living your purpose and your mission, or what is it for you?
I look at life as a little bit of a game that you turn up to play it. I think, as I said, be curious and have a bit of fun with it. And have a bit of fun with your life if you can. And that's what I tend to try to do. I see it as this wonderful game, the game of life. And I think if you hide from it or try not to engage with it or run away from it, I think that's it will eventually catch up to you and make you play whether you want to or not. So I like to go into anything that I do with a good sense of humour and a little bit of I wouldn't say bravado, but a little sense of humour with it. And so you talk about speaking your truth, and I think you need to feel happy with who you are, as I touched on earlier, that self-love and self-appreciation. And it's something that I say I don't give advice, but a lot of people do ask me for, how do I start eating this way, or how do I do this? And I go, well, I think you need to start with self-love. And once you start practicing that and having a bit of fun with yourself, then the rest is easy. Changing your diet is bloody easy. If you want to start a fitness regime or a meditation program or a yoga or whatever it may be, that's easy. It's the first step though is self-love, because without that sense of humor or self-love for yourself, then the other things might just be a little difficult to maintain. I'm all for everybody finding their own path and not relying on somebody else to tell them what to do.
I absolutely agree. I am all for self-love as well. It's something that I'm really passionate about. But I'm curious to know your self-love journey. Have you always had a strong self-love muscle, or is it something that you have really had to develop over the years? Well, how has it kind of unfolded for you?
It's an ongoing process. It's constantly evolving, and it's something that, again, I'm curious about. I've got no regrets in my life and I don't think anybody ever should have regrets, because every decision that we've made has led us to the place that we're in, to be around the people that we're around at the moment. And if you're not around the people that are giving you joy and abundance, then potentially they might come. But again, you need to be doing that for yourself. So I'll bring it back to being curious. And I guess the first thing that really stimulated my curiosity was when I was 19 and I read a book by Anthony Robbins, the motivation expert. And up until then, I'd never really read a book. Novels didn't really do anything for me. But when I read that book, I was like, oh, wow. And he talks about limiting self-beliefs and overcoming fear and setting goals, and talks about self-love and picturing the life that you want to have. And I was just amazed that we weren't taught these things at school. It was not part of our curriculum. We were taught subjects that really had no bearing whatsoever on real life or self-love or self-mastery, if you like. So that was sort of the first, awakening moment for me. And from reading that book, I was just like, wow, what else is out there? Because I'd never heard of these things prior to that. My parents certainly didn't bring up the idea of meditation or self-love or setting your goals or dealing with negative self-beliefs. And they definitely didn't have that at school for us either. So once that spark happened when I was 19, that took me down the rabbit hole, so to speak, into many different holes actually that have bared a lot of fruit for me and helped me understand my place in the world and how I think and how I behave, and how to hopefully bring up my children and in a different way than I was brought up, and how to be a different lover or partner to my wife than my previous relationships, and onwards we go. And I think one of the most important things is that we continually search out more and more knowledge. I won't be able to quote it exactly, but the saying goes that once you think you know it all, then you will start to age very quickly. Whereas if you don't think you know anything and you're constantly seeking out new information, then that will keep you youthful.
I'm curious to know, what are some of your self-love practices?
I think cooking for yourself. I mean, I'm a trained chef, so it's part of my career choice. But I think cooking for yourself and cooking for others, or somebody cooking for you, is one of the best gifts that you can give yourself. I mean, it's called nourishment for a reason. And I see so many people out there that do nourish themselves with beautiful, beautiful food. But I also see a lot of people that, and you could call it abuse, self-abuse, and abuse to their families and their children through the foods that they choose to cook for themselves or for their families. And I do see that as a form of abuse, whereas I can see it as a form of self-love. So I think that's a really simple thing for people to start to do, because you can do it you do it daily, a couple of times a day. Really, you can be self-loving yourself through what you choose to put into your mouth. You can love yourself through the water that you choose to drink. Are you going to drink the cleanest possible water that you can? And that's a form of self-nourishment and self-worship. Are you going to go and have a really good night's sleep tonight and go to bed at an early time? Because that is another form of self-love and self-nourishment. Then you can go on to how you think and how you behave to yourself and to others. That can get a little bit more complicated, because again, we're dealing with maybe years or decades of limiting self-belief conversations that we have to ourselves. And we let others say those things to us as well, which is another total other podcast, because people attract these types of relationships into their life where they allow other people to basically abuse them. So again, it's about choice. And once you choose to start that self-love process, and it might be as simple as I said before, my wife is doing her tea practice in the morning, and that for her is a practice of self-love for herself. It's a time that she's can devote to herself and be in that beautiful heart space, and from that, the rest of the day will unfold as it could. So that's just a couple of tips.
I agree. I feel like not only is cooking an act of self-love, for me, it's meditation. It's a, moving meditation. It's just so beautiful. You mentioned something really important before, you want to really inspire your two beautiful daughters and you want to bring them up differently. I feel like the best way that we can raise our children is by being the example, first and foremost. But I'm curious to know, is there any other little tips or tricks or ways that you have really inspired your daughters to speak their truth and to love themselves and to just live a little bit more fearlessly? Is there anything that you're doing that has worked?
Well, I think they inspire us more so than we inspire them, to be honest with you. I mean, you got to think about it, that children come into this world, into a place of unconditional love, and they've got that for others, and it's everything's a joy and a new wonder each and every day for children as they grow up. So we can learn a lot from them living in the moment, that is for sure, and they can inspire us if we choose to open our eyes and our hearts to that. But I do believe about leading by example, and a little chat that I had with my daughters is I teach them how to surf, because I think it's a wonderful activity that they can do, because it gets them out into nature with the dolphins and the fish and the energy of the ocean, and they get to see sunsets come up or sunrises. Sunsets go down or sunrises come up, and it's a sport that they can do. They don't need anyone else there to do it with them. And once they learn it, they can do it for the rest of their lives and travel the world and always be able to just, if they're having a hard day, they can finish up the day by having a surf or start the day with a surf. So it's important that I wanted to be able to teach the girls one of the joys that I think of as a sport goes. But learning how to surf, it's a challenging thing. It creates a lot of fear for people, and especially for kids, because they're dealing with holding their breath, they're dealing with boards hitting them, they're dealing with other people out there in the ocean, they're dealing with getting dumped onto the sand, they're dealing with leg ropes wrapped around their heads, they're dealing with there's a lot that can go bad very quickly out there. There's rocks, there's reefs, there's sharks, there's, it's probably it's not like playing tennis, but let's put it that way. And one of the things that I taught my girls was, when you're standing on the rocks and you want to jump out to the ocean, it's important that if you see the waves coming, that you don't run away in fear. What I say to them is, stand very firm, get your balance, plant your feet firmly, the waves will come, and then the waves will retreat. And then as they retreat, then take another step or two forward, and then wait for the next wave to come and wait for it to go. And it's a great analogy for life, is that there'll always be waves of things coming in and coming out. And it's important not to run away from them, but it's important to stand your ground and be firm and be powerful. And then just when that wave of whatever it may be is gone, and you can turn that into anything in your life, then just when you're ready, take another step forward or two. You don't need to run, because what happens when you run or retreat too fastly is you'll end up tripping and hurting yourself, or you're not facing the problem head on. So leading by example is important, but also teaching them about their own power and standing in their own unique identity is equally important. You don't want your children to be like you. You want them to be like they are meant to be, their unique, beautiful selves.
It's a beautiful metaphor for life, surfing, isn't it? It's really beautiful. There is the reef, and there's these things that will come and go like the waves, and how you show up and how you approach it's really beautiful. I was just kind of taken on a little journey. I had my eyes closed when you were saying all of that, and I just was taken away, and really such a great metaphor for life.
And a friend of mine, Helen Patteran, who's a naturopath, one of the things that she has said in some of our talks that we've given, and I really enjoy this saying, is try to find something that you can do that's independent of any other human being that brings you joy. So whatever it is that you love to do in life, go out and do it, but it has to be independent of anybody else. That way you actually get to find what resonates with you the deepest. So, it could be a multitude of things. And this is what I love about the work that you do and the people that you have on your podcast, they do. And some of the work that I've done is, it's not so much about getting people to be healthy, it's about the next step for them. Because what are they going to do when they are pain-free, when they wake up full of life? What are their goals and dreams, and what is their true identity, and what do they want to put out into the world or create? And this is what excites me from my work, and why I keep turning up and being very humbled about this, is that I get wonderful emails and stories from people in their 60s, 70s and 80s that have changed their diet, and all of a sudden they have this newfound lease on life because they're pain-free or disease-free, and they've got the energy now. And they tell me that they're either dancing, or they're volunteering, or they're painting, or they're making music, or they're doing the things that really resonates strongly with them, that's sort of independent of anyone else, for them to find their true joy. And I think when more and more people are doing that in the world, then it just lifts up the vibration, and everyone's happy because they're doing the things that they love to do. And yourself, if you can spend the day or a part of the day doing something that you really love to do, then you feel great for the rest of the day, if not for the rest of the week.
Couldn't agree more. You've spoken a little bit about surrounding yourself with inspiring people that are on the same vibration. And I look at you and Nick, and you guys are #relationship goals. I look at you guys and I just think that you share such a beautiful bond. You serve each other, you support each other, you inspire each other. And to me, that is something that I admire. How important do you think it is for people to have relationships around them that reflect what they want to be in the world?
I think everything that we do is a work in progress, and that can come in the form of our own evolution individually or our own evolution as in a relationship, whether it's in a husband and wife relationship, sensual, sexual, loving relationship, or whether it's with your family, or whether it's with your work colleagues, or whether it is whatever relationship it is. I think that it's something that you can always work on and always keep progressing and keep evolving. And as I said earlier, we've had Nick and I. She loves her tea ceremony, and she's invited me in to experience it. And I love connecting in that realm. And for me, I ask her to come surfing here or there because I love also to see her experience what I love to do. And we're actually looking at different forms of also mentorship or relationship evolution, and we've actually just contacted someone recently to say, can we have a session with you? Because what you're teaching is something that we'd really like to, it resonates strongly for both of us, and we're going to journey down that little path as well and see where that takes us. So I think, again, that word of curiosity and self-love for yourself and for others is very important, and I think it is important that you can have these open and honest conversations with anybody that you're in a relationship with. If anything is not agreeing with you, or you would like to improve, then I think honest communication is very important.
I love how hungry you are for growth within yourself. It's really inspiring. And Nick is the same. You guys are just so hungry and curious about growth and wanting to be the best versions of yourself, which is why I love hanging out with you guys, because we get to have great conversations, and it's really beautiful to be around people like yourselves. I talk a lot about the masculine and the feminine energy, and you're very similar to my husband. You're very masculine, strong men, but you are also very in touch with your feminine side. Is this something that you have had to work on? And how important do you think it is to balance both the masculine and the feminine?
It's definitely something that it's good to be aware of, and it's something to cultivate. If you are too masculine, then it's important to bring in or to nurture the feminine side, and vice versa, especially if you are in a loving relationship as well with somebody. It's a balancing act, I believe. Like everything in life is a balancing act. One of the things I learnt to do is when I was 19, I did a speed reading course, and they taught me how to juggle. It was one of the best things I've ever learnt to do, and it's held me strong ever since, learning how to juggle and learning how to balance things in life. And I think it's the same with the yin and yang, or the male and feminine energies that we have. And again, I'm not an expert, so I don't feel comfortable talking about it, but it's probably something that I need to investigate and learn more about myself. Growing up with a single mother, basically, and being basically an only child in my home life growing up, my older brother and sister had already left home basically when I was growing up, so I was pretty much single-handedly raised by my mother. So, and I know a lot of different guys out there that have had similar experiences as well, and they've got similar traits. And there's also the other side of things where people have been raised by their fathers and they've got more masculine energy. So it's probably a better chat for somebody else than me.
Yeah, maybe that is why you are open. You're open to growth. You're hungry for growth. You're curious, and when Nick invites you into one of her beautiful tea ceremonies, there'd be a lot of men that would go, what? But you are so curious and you're so open, and maybe growing up with that more feminine influence has really shaped that. It's really inspiring.
And to be honest, I don't really think about it too much.
Probably a good thing.
Yeah.
So you have faced a lot of adversity and critics because you are fearless and speaking up about what you believe in. And, in particular, that whole saga around the baby formula that was totally misrepresented. And for those that don't know, you published a recipe that had been published hundreds of times before, and you were slammed for it. And from the outside, it looks like you dealt with that with such ease and grace. But was that the case? I mean, for me, I get little comments and it still stings. My higher self tries to be esoteric about it, but sometimes it still stings like a little bee sting. And I'm curious to know, you look like you do it with such ease and grace. Has that been the case for you?
It's interesting, to be honest with you, that the only time these things ever come up is when I'm having an interview with someone about that, what you just mentioned, or anything else. None of that negative media stuff is ever in my normal day-to-day life, except when I'm doing an interview, which I try not to do many of, because it tends to be the thing that people keep bringing up. And so, really, you're still talking about that 5 years on or 6 years on? It was a lie that was manipulated by certain people for their own agenda, and that's what it was. That's what it was, and that's what it is. And it's for me, it's like delete, move on. But for so many others out there, and no disrespect to you, it's still something that people like to talk about for some reason. It's like, really? It's fascinating that people are so drawn to controversy, even if it wasn't real. And all you have to do is look at the local newsagent or airport place where they, I won't say the word news, but if you look at the newspaper of a day-to-day basis, I mean, again, it's controversy, it's not true, it's usually lies or to create or help push somebody's agenda, whether it's politics or religion or mainstream media or somebody's blog or somebody's, whatever it may be. It's always to push somebody's agenda, and generally these days it's about controversy. And I tend not to give it really any energy if I can help it. But it's hard when somebody asks me, because then I have to bring it up. So, or we have to talk about it. Best response for me was, next question, Melissa.
I totally agree with you, and I think it is absolutely ridiculous that people do still bring it up. And the only reason I brought it up was because it's inspiring with how you deal with it. From my perspective, you look like you do it with such ease and grace.
Yeah, I think the thing to know is that you will never please everybody out there, no matter what you do, and that's cool. That's because, and really, the only person you really need to please is yourself. And at the end of the day, for instance, with that book, I'm really happy we self-published it, and it has helped so many people, and I'm very, very happy with it. At the end of the day as well, the controversy that came from it only helped to elevate what we're doing into, I guess, if you want to call it mainstream media, even though it came in a negative way. The flip side of that is people now know what paleo is, to a degree, if they read a real book about it instead of getting their information from mainstream media. But it's also helped to get people talking about what they eat, what they drink, and many other topics that possibly prior to that, it was sort of a little bit of a fringe topic, whereas now it seems to be very popular to talk about these things, which can only be positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'd love to know, what is one thing that you're currently working on or would like to work on within yourself at the moment?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I just touched on before that Nick and I are going to explore another avenue of our relationship, which is going to be fun, and we may or may not release some information on that, or it could be a private thing. So that's something that's exciting at the moment. Being a father is an ongoing journey and something that working on. My oldest daughter is in high school now, and that's a new space for the family dynamic, especially for my daughter, and also for me to help. I need to understand what she's going through this phase, and I've been told by people that the first year of high school for anybody, especially a girl, can be one of the most powerful and most dramatic changes for them in their lifetime. So I just need to be fully aware and present for that, and to understand, or try to understand, and to give her space and encouragement for what she's going through. So that's probably one of the things that I'll be working on this year, just to make sure that she's got all the love and understanding that she needs while she goes through this process.
Beautiful. Now let's pretend you have a magic wand and you could put one book in the school curriculum of every single high school around the world. Now, this is besides your 15 books. Let's say they're already in the curriculum. That's a given. But what is one book that you would put in every single high school around the world, and why?
I would probably put in Richard Dawkins' book, The God Delusion, because we going back to the very start of our conversation today, where people define themselves by a label. So many people define themselves by whether they're Catholic or Jewish or Muslim or Buddhist or a religious belief system. Now, that's all very well and good for people to have religious beliefs, but I do think for children it's very, very, very important for them to come to their own understanding of spirituality or religion when they're old enough to have acquired enough information for them to make that decision of what their belief system is going to be. Because if we look around the world at the moment, the majority of the world's children are put into or given a label from their parents of what religious beliefs they're going to have. And it's not negotiable for so many children. And that would be, I think, a very important book and for people, for children to read when they're of an age where they can take in that information. And then that lets people have free choice. It lets children work out what resonates with them. And obviously I'd love to put a nutrition book in there as well, but I think nutrition can come after understanding who they are as a unique, beautiful individual.
Absolutely. And if you could put a nutrition book in, would there be one in particular?
Probably the most important book that I think I've read would be The Vegetarian Myth by Leah Keith. I think it's a profound book that I think everybody, especially every child, should read when they can understand that information about, again, going back to who we are as a label, as a human, and understanding from our evolutionary history who we are. Because I see so many young females out there that become vegetarians without the proper information and go down a rabbit hole of issues that come from choosing a vegetarian diet so early on and in their teenage years.
They're great. I can't wait to look into the God delusion. I've never heard of it, so I'm excited to look into that. I would love to talk about how your day looks. Like I mentioned at the start of this episode, you wear many hats, but I'm fascinated if you have a morning routine or a couple of daily non-negotiables, how you prime yourself for the day and set yourself up for a successful day. You do so much traveling, you're always on a plane somewhere else, but are there a couple of morning routines or rituals or things that you do to really set yourself up for a successful day?
No.
Nothing.
No. Honestly, I don't have a schedule that is the same every day or the same every week. It's I travel a lot and I'm in very varied locations. But so no, I don't really have any rituals except for really good water and really good food and getting out into the sun at some part of the day if I can, and trying to have a really good sleep and connecting to the earth, whether it's in the ocean or taking my shoes off and walking barefoot in the park or sitting on the ground and connecting with loved ones however I can, whether that's by phone, by Skype or in person, preferably in person. And I think that's the basis of and moving my body somehow. I'm not one for too many rules, and I like to be as flexible as possible. So I don't. At this point in time in my life, I don't have a daily ritual apart from what I just mentioned. Loving yourself as with those simple things, connecting with other people, nourishing yourself with food and water and sunshine and movement and a good night's sleep. And I think. And having a laugh if I can, and whether that's watching a bit of TV or reading a book or whatever it may be, or with somebody. I think if we keep it that simple, I think then you can cultivate wonderful things from that.
Love it. Now, I'd love to hear, I've got 3 rapid fire questions for you.
Go for it.
What is one of the most important things that we can do today for our health?
Get some vitamin D. Get out there and get some sun on our skin without burning, obviously. I think that's a lot of people are vitamin D deficient. So I'd say get out there and get some sun onto you.
It just recharges me. I love it so much. It makes me so happy.
It's free.
Exactly. So now let's hear one of the most important things that you can do for your wealth. When I say wealth, I mean being wealthy in every area of your life. So with your career and just doing what you love. So what's one of the most important things that we can do for our wealth?
Well, I think you just summed it up there. And success is, are you happy? Are you healthy? Have you got enough money to put a roof over your head and put good food onto your table? The rest is a bonus, I think, from there. So the one thing you can do is, do something every day that you love to do. I'll go back to what Helen said. Do it. Find what that is. For somebody, it might be singing. Another person, it could be dancing. It could be drawing or painting. It could be playing with an animal. It could be taking photos. I don't know what it is for people, but if you can find what that is, that's where true happiness and wealth will come, when you're doing things that you love to do for yourself.
Yes, amen. And what is one of the most important things that we can do for love, to cultivate more love in our life?
More of the same. More of the same, and being open and honest with ourselves and with others, I think is the key, and not judging and understanding. And it's something that I'm still working on myself. As I said, it's a work in progress. So good luck with that one.
Yeah, we are an onion. There's more layers to come.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being a fearless ambassador for truth and for leading the path. You inspire me so much to speak my truth even more and to just follow my path. You are such a great example of that, and I'm really grateful to have you lead the way and for you following your truth. It's really inspiring.
Thanks, Melissa. It was awesome to have a chat with you, and hopefully something resonated with somebody out there. And if not, there'll be somebody else on your beautiful podcast that will help you out along the way, hopefully. But always look inside and find what resonates for yourself.
Thank you so much, Pete. What a humble and beautiful man. I love how passionate and committed he is to wanting to grow and learn. It's really inspiring. And I want to encourage you this week to pick up a new book or seek out some new wisdom and continue to grow and learn. That is the best way that you are going to evolve. So I hope you loved today's episode as much as I did. If you did, please subscribe and leave me a 5-star review in iTunes, because that means we can not only reach more people and inspire more people together, but it also means that we can get more epic humans on the show. And don't forget to tell me who you want me to interview on the show. And make sure you do that on Twitter by using the hashtag @Mel_Ambrosini, and the person that you want me to interview using the hashtag The Melissa Ambrosini Show. And for everything that Pete and I mentioned in the podcast today, you can check out in the show notes. That is at melissaambrosini.com/20. You can also check out all my other podcasts there. And before I go, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here, for wanting to grow and learn and be the best version of yourself. You are awesome. And now, if there is someone in your life that you think would really benefit from this particular episode, please share it with them right now. And until next time, don't forget that love is sexy, healthy is liberating, and wealthy isn't a dirty word.